Good morning and welcome to this session with award-winning author and journalist Fred Khumalo. My name is Sam Mathe. I'd like to thank the organizers, in particular Ismail Mohammed and Spindile Shongwa, for having organized this event. And I'm happy to host you, Fred, in your own house.
It's an honor.
Let me acknowledge the following sponsors who have made this event possible. We've got the University of KZN, the Department of Arts and Culture, the Provincial Department of Arts and Culture in KZN, Amazwi Museum for South African Literature, the French Institute of South Africa, the Foundation for Human Rights, the National Institute for the Humanities and Social Sciences, as well as media partners, the Imbiza Journal for African Writing. Welcome again, my brother.
Thank you. It's an honor, and once again, yes, thank you to the organizers for inviting me to, and also for making me the featured author for this auspicious festival.
Mm-hmm. And thanks for having me in your own home. Great stuff. You have had a very interesting journey over the years. I would guess even before you made your breakthrough in 2006, two of your award-winning books. Can we just retrace back and talk about your literary journey before 2006?
Yes, I'll try and summarize because it's a very long journey. I started in high school. I went to a small high school in a small township of Mpumalanga in Hammersmith, KwaZulu-Natal. Even back then in high school, I was writing things that I mistook for poetry, short stories and poetry. And I gave those things to my teacher, who encouraged me and hooked me up with Mafika Khumalo, who lived in my township, but I really wasn't, I knew the guy, but I didn't realize how big a name he was in the world of literature all over the world. And then he's the guy who guided me. And he's the one who suggested that I go, instead of doing arts, because I wanted to do a degree in literature. He said maybe the way to go, if you really are serious about pursuing a career in writing, go straight into journalism, which will give you the craft and the discipline. And then you can use journalism to fund your dream of launching yourself into literary writing, which is how it happened. And of course, Mafika Khumalo was in charge, was chairperson and founder of a group called the Mpumalanga Arts Ensemble. It was a group of politically active artists, writers, poets, painters. Mandla Langa, before he went into exile, was a member of this group as well, in Mpumalanga Arts Ensemble. He was very close to Mafika Khumalo. Sfiso Mkame, the renowned painter, was a member of this group. So I got into a good kind of grounding as a person who was aspiring to write.
You're probably the youngest in that.
I was the youngest. I remember I came to Johannesburg for the first time in 1984. It was in the middle of just before we wrote our matric exams. And Mafika Khumalo and Omar Bacha, and I hope he's watching. The photographer, and Sfiso Mkame came to my school after, it was a Friday, and they took me still in my school uniform, and we went to my house in Unit 3. I took a bag of things that I would use to change over the weekend, because there was a meeting here in Johannesburg, which was the precursor for the formation of the Congress of South African Writers. So I was the youngest. So the journey has been long and varied. You asked a question about how did I get started? I started, my first short story was published in Staff Rider in 1991, when Staff Rider was edited at the time by Andries Walter Oliphant. And then later, Chris van Wyk was also in Staff Rider, and I continued writing short stories and so on. But for me to make the breakthrough came for me in, as you say, 2006.
But the recognition before 2006, you also got some recognition. In the form of 2 awards. The Najim Godima,
yes,
as a runner-up,
yes,
and the VO Bertram's literary award as well, just around 1996.
Yes.
That is exactly 10 years before you made this breakthrough.
You see, now that I'm older and I've won all these big awards, I forget about the smaller ones. That is true. In 1991, I was shortlisted for the Nieman Fellow Short Story Award for a short story called Ramu the Hermit. I've recycled that short story many times.
So it comes through.
It's there in the novel 7 Steps to Heaven. I weaved it in.
You weaved it in.
Yes. So so that is the story that got me noticed. And then
and initially, originally, when did it appear?
In 1991.
Yeah, when? Sorry, where?
In a collection called The Finishing Touch. Okay. It's a collection of short stories by different writers. Dr. Dina Padayachi won that year's award. I was for which I was shortlisted. Yes. So we had Dina Padayachi. We had I think Maureen Isaacson was in the same collection of short stories as well. There are many writers. Yeah. So that's when I got published in book form.
Okay. And then you got recognition for them.
Yeah, I got a certificate and recognition. And then 4 years later, there was something called the Bertram's VO Award for new novelists. It was run by Scotterville Publishers, Bram Toby Mtwati. Yeah. So
did it happen at the Market Theatre?
Yes.
I remember that.
Yes. They flew me from Durban.
From Durban specifically for that. Yeah, I remember seeing it there. I was there too.
Yeah. So I'd forgotten about
that. That was at the Market Theatre. Yeah. I even remember other writers who were there.
That Bimlish was there.
Was one of them.
Yeah. So those were the 2 major recognitions that I achieved before I actually got published solo. Yeah, solo. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. And what sort of experiences do you have with publishers before this actual breakthrough? Did you, for instance, some writers will talk about the rejected several times. Maybe it was just smooth sailing.
No. I was rejected. You have to recall that. Yes, we still have major problems with our publishing industry right now. But back then it was worse. Especially if you were a young black writer, unrecognized. Yeah. If you were not Njabulon Ndebele or the bigger names. Yeah. So I wrote a novel which I sent around, which was rejected, and then
What did you title it?
I can't even remember. Yeah. And then upon reflection, it was really bad.
Oh, okay.
It was really bad. And then ultimately,
but from them, what was the official feedback from them? Were they any helpful?
No. You could see that they hadn't even bothered to read it.
Yeah, they didn't.
And then I sent it to Chris van Wyk.
Okay.
Yeah. And we had a sit down at his house in
Rivoli.
In Rivoli. Yes. Sat down over coffee, and he said, "Fred, you have written 300 pages of good English. Oh, good English, but there is no story yet." And he was very candid with me. And we'd known each other over a long period of time. Mm-hmm. You remember when Koso was formed, he was there, I was there. So I listened to him. I took whatever he said, I took it to heart. Of course, you get angry when people say you have written rubbish. You get angry.
Thought this was great stuff.
Yes. So you're you are defensive. But if you are too defensive, then you don't learn. Yes,
I see.
So
did you listen to him the way you also listened to Mafika Kwai?
Yes, I did. I set it aside.
Yeah.
And as we were talking, I started telling my life story, growing up in Hammersdale, being exposed to the political violence of the time. And then he says, there's a story you should write. Write how you grew up and how you survived and how you escaped the violence in KZN. That is Touch My Blood.
Story, and that's
Touch My Blood.
Yeah.
And then and I said, I've never thought of writing an autobiography. And then he said, read Angela's Ashes. And he gave me a list of books that were written by people who were not famous and people writing about their simple day-to-day lives in the ghetto and so on. Angela's Ashes is about this guy, an Irish-American guy who grew up in poverty, but later became a famous writer. And I used that.
And he won a Pulitzer for that.
Yeah, he won a Pulitzer for that, yes. So I used that as a template, as a guide. So thanks to Chris, I wouldn't have written Touch My Blood the way I did.
But the story, Fred Khumal's story, was more than just a guide for you. It was an inspiration as well.
It was an inspiration.
To finish.
Yes, it was an inspiration because he showed
what
me.
What exactly struck you about his prose and the whole story?
The humor. The humor. Okay. You've known me for years and years and years. Ever since as a young writer, even when I was still writing for Home Africa, a New African in Durban, I enjoy taking a serious issue and injecting it or infusing it with humor. Yes. And it has worked for me. So I realized in reading Angela's Ashes, this guy is doing what I've been trying to do all these years. So I really was inspired.
So it struck a chord with you.
It did. I definitely did. So that's how I got to write Angela. Touch My Blood.
Touch My Blood.
Yes. Yeah. And it was my first published book.
Yeah.
Actually, I published two books. At the same year. It was Touch My Blood and Brew. Yeah.
Which won the European
Union Literary Award. Yeah. Yes.
And so, this was a recognition beyond the boundaries, beyond the borders of your country, of your home.
That was astounding for me because this was my first novel.
Yes.
And
here you get this recognition.
They publish the book, they give you good money, and you get recognition overseas, as you say. So all of a sudden, people are taking notice of what Fred Khumalo is doing.
It was an international breakthrough.
Yes, it was. It was, my brother. It was. I was over the moon, as you can imagine. Yeah.
And then what were the spin-offs? We've had, for instance, the recent novels that you've published, even Touch My Blood. It was adapted for the stage, I think at the Market Theatre by James Noble. What sort of waves did this one create?
Oh yeah, the spin-off, interestingly or ironically, was that after the publication of these two books, and my name was in the newspapers, people at the Center for Creative Arts invited me to do a keynote address.
At the same festival?
Yeah, at the same festival.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was, I think that was 2006 or something.
Same year.
Yes. So that was
amazing.
The first. That was the first spin-off, and after that, James Noble adapted Touch My Blood for the stage, and the play was performed at the National Arts Festival in Grahamstown, and then it transferred to the Market Theatre. Yes.
Yeah.
So that was that, and after
did you enjoy the way it was done? Unfortunately, I didn't have the.
Yeah. I'm not a playwright, and I wasn't really. I didn't interfere in the
recognition.
For me, it was recognition. And I said, okay, this is how they do these things. So it was a lesson for me. And they graciously invited me to rehearsals. And they asked me to make input if and when I thought I could say anything, but I didn't see much to be done. I thought they'd done justice to the story. So from there, and then I got invited to France, obviously based on the European Union thing.
Oh yes.
I spent some time at one of the residencies for writers in France. So that was another spin-off. Yes, yeah.
And the stay in France, I think the echoes of that in Dancing the Death Drill. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I went to France for the first time for that residency in a small town called Saint-Nazaire. It's along the coast. So it's a small shipbuilding town. I spent some time there, and then later, many years later, as I was researching Dancing the Death Drill, the story of the sinking of the SS Mende, I went back to France with a new vision now to say, this is where these guys who survived the sinking of the SS Mende landed. Yes. So now I was looking at this with renewed interest, but that would happen much later.
But with some background.
Yes. But when I got down to writing Dancing the Death Drill, I had these recollections of my stay in Saint-Nazaire and how this town was laid out, and its history and its influences on the First World War and so on.
You capture the landscape of that city so beautifully.
Thank you.
You really do.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
I mean, I remember I shared a paragraph or so. I thought, wow, this was just amazing.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
The place is beautiful in winter when there is snow. Part of the sea actually frozen sea.
Yeah.
It was the first time I saw a frozen ocean, and I walked on frozen. Wow. Yeah. So those images stayed with me, and they would assail me as I started writing the other book. Dancing the Death Drill.
And Dancing the Death Drill, again, this is a book that you say has been in the making for many years.
Yes.
Based on some of your childhood experiences, like the songs. It's a song about the sinking of the SS Mende, and but the story itself, long before you decided to do the actual writing, the story was there, and it just needed an outlet, in a sense.
Yeah. What the story of the story of the Mende is one of those stories that Black South Africans of a certain generation grow up with. But we tend to dismiss it as some kind of myth.
Okay.
No, inganegwane.
I see.
So there was a song that we sang in choir. I was a member of a church choir in my youth, and we used to sing this song, and then the teacher explained that it was based on something that really happened. That black men went to fight overseas. And as they were getting to Europe, the ship went down there, and then they all died. That was the version. They all died. And then many years later, I went to France as a journalist with John Battersby, Chris Moore. Those just the three of us. We were journalists. We were there at the invitation of the Foreign Affairs Department of France, because France was trying to reposition itself to sell its cultural products to South Africa. So they approached prominent journalists, and I was one of them. So this guy who was our chaperone in Paris took us to a grave, and we were saying to ourselves, why is this guy? Is this the French way? Is this the French way of entertaining your guests, taking them to graveyards? And then when we got there, and then we realized the headstones. There's Vundla, there's Mkwena. And then we say, who are these people?
So buried here? Names,
names. And then he says, I brought you here for a reason. And he says, these are the survivors of the Mandy. And then the story came back to me. Many, many years later, it came back to me. Wow, so it really happened.
Until that stage, you also believe that there were no survivors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then this guy says, no, they survived. And then they were brought to France. They served from 1917. Remember, the Mandy went down in 1917. They served right through 1917 and right until the end of the war. Because the war ended in November 1918.
Okay.
So some of them died of natural causes, which is why they are buried here in the small town called Dieppe, which is along the coast. So, and then I wrote a series of articles for a newspaper I was working for at that time. And the kind of response I received from readers wanting to know more about the story of the Mandy said to me, wait a minute, maybe this is a book.
You have a novel here.
Yes. So that's the genesis of the Dancing with Death. So and then later, when I already started writing, I went back to France and spent a month again. Now at these specific areas where the soldiers moved and so on, the kind of landscape that I described specifically in the novel. So I went to France 3 times in the service of this book.
I see. And you mentioned there's a restaurant that you mentioned where the crime happened.
Yes.
I was checking that restaurant the other day, and
it's still there.
And I was amazed to find that it has been graded 1 star.
Now,
well, that's what I read. And I was like, a place with such a rich history. 1 star was the story here. But that's what I discovered recently.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I just found it strange.
Okay, I haven't checked it.
But anyway, but this is a place with a rich history. I think
it appears many kings from all over the world.
What's the name again?
Lord Latour Jargent. Okay, I'm not French.
French.
Okay, Tour L'Argent. TOUR, another word, L apostrophe AGENT. I know there are some people watching us and laughing at us. Okay, Tour L'Argent.
We'll check the pronunciation later.
Yes.
And well, I mean, the opening is the setting. The opening is there, so dramatic. Like, wow, what a place. And then you have this main character. The flashbacks work so.
And I chose that restaurant for that setting because it's beautifully located. When you're sitting there, you can see the river. The river Seine.
Yeah, the river Seine.
And you see the Notre Dame, and you see the church that went down 2 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really, really auspicious. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I said, let me locate this.
And it's a place of great historic and cultural significance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I get to sneak in Miles Davis as well.
And it works so well.
Yeah.
Especially for a writer with so much passion for jazz. So you had to reference jazz somehow.
Oh yeah.
Because of it's France and also Paris in particular. It's got a strong jazz connection there.
Paris is very central to the liberation of Black artists, not only from America but also from South Africa.
From South Africa, we had Gerard Sekoto, the painter.
Exactly.
Who went there in 1947.
Yes, exactly. I don't know if you did pick it up in the book.
Yes, of course I did.
Yes,
it's actually the name, of course, has been changed.
Yes.
But I think it's easy to tell that the character is based on a historical figure.
The restaurant that he worked at, the Jacob's ladder.
The Jacob's ladder.
That's where Gerard got the work in real life.
Yeah. And then he played the piano.
He played the piano there. Yeah. So I wanted to celebrate Black artists going there, because if you read Miles Davis's biography, if you listen to Nina Simone's story, Richard Wright, James Baldwin, all these great Black artists say.
And before them, there was Josephine Baker as well.
Yes. So they all say they found their liberation in Paris. Yeah. So I thought, let me bring that motif into the story. Yes. Yeah. So that's why at a later stage we see Beatle in Dancing the Death Drill playing the saxophone as well at one of these jazz clubs. Yeah, that's my kind of tribute to Black artists who found themselves in Paris.
And the same when you visited there recently as in the time when you had a residency, a writer's residency.
Yes.
And of course you compare with those years in the 50s, the jazz scene. You say it's actually still there.
Not at that level. But it's still much better than our jazz scene, unfortunately. Okay, they've got money, so it's still vibrant. There's a neighborhood called the Saint-Germain neighborhood or quarter. It's still vibrant and very inspirational. You want, as a writer, you want to spend your years there just sitting, imbibing the culture.
Wow. How are we doing? No, still have good time before we can get the responses from the Facebook people.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, let's zoom in into your latest work, because there's that what should I call it? The musical element.
Yes.
But in this case, we are talking country music.
Oh yeah.
In particular, Dolly Parton.
Yes.
Well, that's a great song. That is a great song, and I can't wait. Congratulations, by the way, for this. This will be the 13th.
Yeah, it will be my 13th book
in 15 years.
Yes.
In 15 years. So on average now we're gonna get 2 books. 2 books every year. Hopefully.
For the benefit of people listening and wondering what the hell Sam is talking about, he's alluding to my new book, which is coming out next month. I've got a collection of short stories coming out in April. It's called A Coat of Many Colors. Those of you who know Dolly Parton will recognize that title. So it was inspired by the song Dolly Parton song. I was driving sometime last year. I was driving and listening to, I think it was Kaya FM. No, it's 702.
Yeah, Eusebius McKay's.
Yeah,
I was also driving, and I had to stop and listen to that. I was going somewhere to Soweto. I had to stop. Actually.
Yeah, so
it was amazing.
Eusebius had a beautiful program dedicated to Dolly Parton, and one gets to see another side to Dolly Parton, because a lot of people dismiss her as this blonde bimbo, a big bosom, bimbo, Meanwhile, she is a feminist par excellence, and if you look at the work he has done for literature, she has bought, I think they said 15 million books, and distributed them to communities,
particularly underprivileged communities.
So I listened to this program, and I was highly fascinated.
That was fascinating.
Yeah, I've listened to Dolly Parton through the years. I'm not saying I'm a fan, but I listen to her music. I do find it funny, inspirational, and as a person who comes from KZN, if you get on board a taxi in KZN, There will
be a Dolly Parton.
There will be a Dolly Parton. Not just a bang time with Dolly Parton. So I listened to Dolly Parton as a kid, and then Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
So last year, I'm driving and I listened to this, and it triggered something in me. I said, I've got a story here.
Yeah.
And I wrote a short story, and I titled it A Coat of Many Colors. Thematically, it works with the story. And I used that as the title for the stories that I've gathered together. So this is my 13th book.
This is your 13th book. Yes. And how many stories do we have?
In the collection, 10 stories.
Yeah,
10 stories.
And is there a particular story besides the title itself? Is there a particular story with this title? Is there a particular story in the collection?
Yes, there is. The opening story. The opening story
carries the title.
It carries the title. It is set in my township, Mpumalanga Township in Hammersdale. It's a hilarious story about a guy who steals a goat while it is being cooked. You know, people are not noticing, and he pulls out the whole goat, and he puts in his own coat out of the pot. Wow. He hides the goat elsewhere, and he takes his own coat and he plunges it into the pot. Wow. And so when they are staring, they keep staring. They're staring. The meat is still here. Yeah. No, meanwhile it is the goat.
It's long gone.
Yeah.
I mean, the actual meat is long gone.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Based on the story that actually happened in my township.
Yeah.
So I used that. And
you use that.
I put my aromat and salt and so on, and it becomes a short story.
Because there's some of your stories sounds far-fetched, but in actual fact, they're based on real characters. Like the characters Mafika Gwala told you about to go and there's this guy with the name of a lady.
Doris
is a guy. And so you have Doris in your story. So this one, as you are saying, it's based on
something that really happened, and people from Hammersdale know the story.
And they can
because the guy who stole the goat was a famous in his former life when he was still young. He was a famous soccer player, and he fell on hard times. So his story is Wow. So anyway, that's the latest book.
Which team did you play for? African Wanderers?
No.
No. I could guess. Maybe was he a goalkeeper?
No, he was a striker. He was a striker. He played for a team called Hispanella. Leicester United, Leicester City, in Hammersdale.
Yeah,
and he played for my father's team.
Your dad's team
my father used to own a team called Crocodile FC.
Yeah,
yes,
he was also part of that.
Yeah, trainer. Yeah, so he gave me a story.
Okay,
so I wrote that story. It's hilarious.
Amazing. Yeah, because when you listen to that song, it's very evocative. I mean, what parents will do with, very modest means for their children.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
To give dignity to a very bad situation of poverty.
Making ends meet.
Yeah. That's very powerful, so to speak. Maybe we can also look at we did speak about publishing, but my concern as well is the availability of some of these books for those of us who frequent outlets like exclusive books. Sometimes you realize, I mean, when you look at authors, I've mentioned established authors like Natin Godima, Andre Frank, J.M. Coetzee. Most of their books are there. You don't even have to order them. They're just there. But it's a different story with Black writers. That's my observation.
Zukiswa Vanner made a very telling point in her keynote address on Monday. Yeah. That's here we are indigenous Black South African writers. Yet when you go to a local bookstore, we get relegated to a corner called Africana, you know? And then up front, you will get your James Patterson, your Stephen King, and so on, as if we are guests in this country. And these stores are owned by locals. It's not as if they're international stores, therefore they must bow by the dictates of...
They're patronized by local...
Yes, exactly. So we have been fighting this uphill fight or uphill battle with book distributors in South Africa. The argument is, well, they have to sell James Patterson because he sells readily and Stephen King sells readily. But they haven't really experimented with local writers. If you put a Zukisa Wana up front, a Tandem Golozana up front, on your window display, what happens? Over time, give them time. You don't just do it for window dressing, excuse me, reasons for 2 weeks. Give it time for it to sink in the public's mind.
You can't expect overnight success.
Exactly.
Without marketing, without making an effort to market it.
There are many people, our people, black people, who've got money, who go to these malls and they say, in what is available? Oh, these are white people.
And then they just pass.
They won't even go into the shop, you know? Yeah. Meanwhile, our books are at the back there, hidden in a ghetto. So please, I mean, I know there are representatives from bookstores listening. Please have faith in local writers. Give us the benefit of the doubt. Give us space. We will sell those books if you give us the support.
Actually, what you're saying is so sad as well, because I remember when I went to buy the Tondiswa game.
Yes.
The teller to go right at the back. Literally, she went right at the back.
At the back. It wasn't displayed at
No, it wasn't. And actually, I was naive enough to expect some posters on the windows.
Yeah.
Because I mean, this was I think the week that it was launched.
Yeah.
And I was expecting some hype and stuff like that.
No, let me show the cover. Hey, we must sell books here. Continue talking now, Sam.
Sure. Okay, we're just waiting for him to come back. And here he is.
This is the book that Sam is talking about. The book that I believe hasn't been sold properly. You know, this is the book. This way. Heart of a Strong Woman. It's a beautiful book, a collaboration between myself and Koliswa and Duneningema. It's a life story.
It's a life story.
It also covers the history of South African theatre and so on. But I feel the book hasn't been done justice by the bookstores because they don't display it properly. You know?
Yeah. And of course, it's a book that also tells an ongoing story about the treatment of women in the hands of these patriarchal men who seem to think that they own women.
Yes.
So for me, it did strike a chord with our current situation, where gender-based violence is so rife.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then a story which, of course, it happened back in the days, 80s, but it's still relevant today. And she had the courage
to speak out.
To tell it. You were there to assist in the process.
Yeah. Because gender-based violence is not something that started now or recently or last year or 2 years ago. It's always been there. It's part of the social fabric, ugly as it is, of South Africa. But it's something that we haven't been talking about. We haven't been speaking about. We haven't. It's one of those things. Oh, we shouldn't wash our laundry in the public. If we are having problems,
suffer in silence.
Exactly. But women are speaking out. Koliswa, I must take off my hat to her. She said, I want this story told. You know. Yes. In any case, we're going
because in the newspaper headlines we see the drama. of the success, this great theater stage production that went international and such a huge success. We are celebrating that success, rightfully so. But behind the scenes, there are all these ugly dramas unfolding, and then we didn't know about that.
Exactly.
And then she puts it there.
Yes.
For a change, it becomes part of the news. And that was literally part of the news, because I remember some of the newspapers actually headlined the story that week.
Oh yes,
in the Sunday, I think it was a
Sunday Times, Sunday World. Yeah. In fact, Sunday World ran a series for 3 weeks, for 3 Sundays. They ran a series. So because it was something that resonated with a lot of people. Gender-based violence and so on. And of course, the names involved. This is Mongeni Ngema, and this is Xolisa Nduneni Ngema. You know, so it's a story that people would relate to or would want to know more.
And based on its relevance and significance as an ongoing social problem, one will expect the publishers to have perhaps, distributors in this case, perhaps to have maybe capitalized on that as well.
I was hoping
to spread the message.
I was hoping for that. I really was hoping for that. I told her this book is going to be on the window displays. But it wasn't. Yeah, and they missed. Another thing is the people who make these decisions. Unfortunately, white people who do not understand Black lives and Black stories, you know, so they wouldn't have known who Xolisa Nduneni Ngema was. You see, so they didn't realize this is a book.
But maybe also they couldn't be bothered in terms of doing some research, some 5-minute Google.
I get a sense to them it's just another job, another book, another story. So it's our job as well as writers to keep sensitizing the responsibility to sensitize them, to say these are the stories that you should be pushing.
No, definitely. In I think that's around 2007, you said something about writers, young upcoming writers. I hope I'll find this soon, especially the Black writers. And you indicated that there is a rise in post-apartheid South Africa of these young writers who are telling South African stories, not necessarily stories that are tainted with the apartheid theme, you know, but stories in general that resonate with South Africans. But you also indicated that at that time there were few. You mentioned very few. I would say maybe a handful. How has the landscape changed? Wow.
There's a flood of books, by young Black writers in South Africa. A flood. I mean, I can't keep up with the books that are being produced almost every month. There are new books. So I've got a very big, a very tall stack of books that I have yet to read about contemporary South Africa. Stories about sex, you know, stories about life in the townships, or stories about life at university, you know, stories about fees must fall. You know, Piccoli. So those are the stories. Those stories show the dynamism of South African literature. That we. Some people some years ago said, now that apartheid is dead, what are Black writers in South Africa going to be writing about? As if we were dependent on apartheid. So these writers who are producing beautiful books, Osfiso Mzobe, or Nicky Mhlongo, or Kilito Mpai, these people are showing that you don't need apartheid to be creative. You know, there are many, many, many stories coming out from different parts of the country. It's not just Joburg-based stories, you know. Yeah. So I'm really inspired by what is happening.
What is happening?
Yes, yeah.
And you are a genuine advocate of local writing, in the sense that you are always on the lookout. It's not only about Fred Khumalo writing his own books, but you always show genuine interest in what young writers are doing, or your contemporaries are doing.
Oh yes, yeah. Because if I were to close myself into this Fred Khumalo cocoon, I will not grow as a writer. And as a South African, I need all these stories to see where my country is, socially, politically, and otherwise. But also drawing inspiration from younger writers.
Yes.
I'm an old guy.
Yeah.
There are guys who are in their 20s who are writing. You know, I have to ask my daughters, what does this mean? You know, the slang, you know, the slang, you know.
Yeah, you have that interest.
Yeah, I have that interest.
It's not about people of your age.
Yeah, exactly.
Older guys.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Because with somebody like you, it means they can also feel encouraged to go on. Right.
Hopefully,
regardless of their challenges.
Hopefully, because when we were starting out as young Black writers back in the 80s, early 90s, there were not many people to guide us, to show us the ropes in terms of how to deal with publishers who can be a headache, how to deal with publicity, how to deal with a contract, you know, because the publishers can rob you if you're not.
Which you are not. Yeah.
Anyway.
But it's a fact.
It is, yeah. So what I'm saying is, because I've been there, it doesn't take anything from me sharing what I know.
What do you know?
Yes.
With the benefit of hindsight.
Yes. To say, no, don't do it this way. Do it this way. Oh, there's an opportunity there. Because these days, there are many, many opportunities for writers. Many limitless opportunities. Unlike when we were starting out, there's online publishing, there's self-publishing, you know, so you explore different avenues for the kind of writing that you are producing. Of course, there's Netflix, there's television. Who feeds the beast? Those beasts need to be fed by writers. We can't keep complaining, oh, Netflix doesn't show South African stories. We must write them.
We must write them and have them out there.
Sure.
I think I'm getting some messages from WhatsApp.
Let
me read some of them.
Yes.
This one says, hi Sam, happiest and healthiest 2021. I got your contacts from Nick. My book club, Bookworms Book Club, is discussing Joburg Noir on the 10th of April from 2, and I'm inviting a couple of contributors to spend the 2 hours with us online via Zoom. The book is sponsored by CNA, therefore the title will be heavily promoted across over 150 branches of CNA for a month. At the least, is this something you could be interested in doing? We can't pay you for your time, unfortunately. My name is Lorraine Sutton. The time of the writer lineup is fantastic, and I've been watching since Monday.
Thank you. You see, Lorraine is a campaigner. She is a warrior. She's a literary warrior. She is pushing our books, and we are grateful for the likes of Lorraine who are there telling people to form book clubs. Let me be honest, my brother. Without book clubs, the South African writer would be in trouble. So they help a lot. Yeah.
Oh, great stuff. So let me check if there's something else. Let me just check.
Okay, Sam is still checking there.
I think, so far that's what I can see.
Okay, that's all. Okay.
That's what I can see. Okay, I think there's something else. Hi, Sam Khumalo here. I'll send you questions as they come in. Oh, okay. And then Facebook comment, Bobby Rothwell, loving the discussion, memories of Mafika Gwala to the late great poet. This is from Bobby Rothwell. And there's a Zoom chat, Salim Washington. Fred Khumalo is fascinating. Great.
Thank you, Salim. Thank you, Bafo.
And then there's a Facebook comment, Kesha Chepa to here, and our people don't have time to go to the back corner for our so-called Africana section for our books. I agree the point that our local authors need to be placed in front of the shelves. Okay, yeah, so far that is the feedback we are getting. But let's go back to the role of book clubs in promoting. So you've written about that on Facebook at some stage.
Yes, I have.
And yes, I have. Yeah. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yes.
And how you personally interact with them?
Yes, I've been invited by a number of book clubs, especially in Johannesburg and also in Cape Town.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed about these clubs is they have helped, with sales, because they buy books. And sometimes I would even bring in bulk, yeah. And I would even bring my own books as well to say, in case you need more, here are the books. And they buy, and I autograph, and they publicize books on social media. And you know, it's amazing the kind of I sell books sitting here in my house, based on what the likes of Lawrence Chole are doing online. Yeah. And a person would say, I saw your book being recommended by X book club. Where can I get the book? And I say, oh yeah, I've got copies of the book here. So I do sell quite a lot of books from my own house as well. But that process was started by the book clubs. Yeah, and so when you go as a writer, when you go to book clubs, you get treated with respect that you do not get generally in the industry.
There's appreciation.
There's appreciation. Yes. Yeah. You can see that these people have read the book. There's nothing as irritating.
They don't say, "Tell me about that book."
No, I've been interviewed on live TV, my brother.
Yeah.
You get there and you know you have only 3 minutes on air. It's a live. This is a morning live. But this guy says, "Oh, tell us about your book."
Yeah.
Come on. Have some respect for you know. So I'm saying book clubs show appreciation and respect, and we appreciate.
And they do their homework in terms of reading before they chat to the author.
Yes.
There's another one. It's a Facebook comment from James Murua.
Oh yeah, he's in Kenya.
He's in Kenya.
Yes.
Yeah. He says, "Thank you guys, great session."
Thank you, James. Yeah, here's another warrior. He promotes African literature. Yes. Thank you.
Great stuff.
Thank you, James.
Yeah. We are heading towards the end, and I think we've touched a bit on young people, but I would like us to talk more about that. Young aspiring writers. You are obviously a role model. I mean, based on your success as a published author, long-standing published author, multi-award winner, globetrotter. So of course they look up to you. And what would you like to say to these young guys? Maybe there are those who are really disillusioned. They don't really think this is the journey worth pursuing, maybe because of whatever obstacles they come along the way, the rejection slips and stuff like that. Okay. What would you like to say specifically to those ones?
One thing I will say to an aspiring writer out there, if you hate rejection, then writing or any artistic endeavor is not for you. Yeah, because rejection is guaranteed, my brother. It is guaranteed. Touch My Blood was rejected by 4 publishers locally. Yeah, in this country. I was, and at that time I thought, oh well, I am Fred Khumalo of the Sunday Times. No one is going to reject me. I've got a following. No, I was rejected. Yeah. So number one, as an upcoming writer, go there with a but do your homework. You might have written a beautiful, sexy novel, but now you send it to Van Skyke. Van Skyke publish academic books. Yeah. So once you've written your manuscript, look for publishing house the same kind of book that you have written.
In other words, do your homework.
Do your homework.
Do your homework.
Because many writers I've encountered have failed there.
Oh,
they say I've been rejected by this publisher, and I look at the manuscript and I say, yes, they were right to reject you, because this is an academic publishing house. They don't publish fiction. So do your homework. There are many.
Or you have written a political book and you send it to Mills and Boone.
Yeah,
and they say, no, this is not the thing.
Thankfully, there's the internet. The internet should be your friend as a writer.
To check the relevant information.
The relevant publishers, the relevant information. Don't phone Sam or Fred. How can you hook me up with a publisher? No.
Doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. Because the information is there online. Just do your bit, do your homework. And then another thing, young writers must read. You cannot be a writer if you don't read.
Yeah.
You cannot be a soccer player if you don't watch other soccer players, and if you don't practice. Yes. I always tell people I write every day.
There are no shortcuts.
Yeah, there are no shortcuts. I write every day, trying to perfect my writing. Every day, you're training the muscle, the writing muscle. There's Salim Washington who listening to us. He's a musician. He plays the saxophone.
And he practices.
He practices every day. You see, no, it doesn't, you don't just crack it.
His age and experience is not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't have to, there's always room for the craft to be perfected.
Yes. And there are opportunities for really young writers these days. There are many opportunities. If you go online, where do you send? I mean, there are competitions, for example. The European Union competition that I won in 2006, it's still there.
It's still there. Yeah. It just needs entrance.
Yeah, every year they run this competition. They're looking out for a new unpublished novelist, and there's a good prize money. I think 35,000 rand, and they publish your book as well.
Publish your book.
Yeah, so there are all those opportunities.
They just need to get check and get used to this information and act on it.
Exactly.
Okay, we are almost there. I think it's 12 o'clock. Okay. Maybe you can, your final words on this.
My final words, but no, thank you once again, Sam, for coming through, and thanks to the organizers of the festival. It's an honor. Keep reading, and please, people, support local writers. Support local writers, whether or not they are not at the exclusive books or at all these big name stores. Support them. Even those who are selling their books, especially those who are selling their books from the boot, because they can't find space at the big name retailing shops, because it's expensive for a small-time self-published author to put her books there. So we need support.
That support. Yeah. Oh, great stuff. Yeah, it was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
In your own home, being my guest.
Yeah. Thank you.
I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now is the time for you'll autograph for me.
Okay, these are the books. These are the books.
And I bought them. He brought me two.
These are the books. Don't say we were talking in Ganegwane. These are the books. Oh yeah, first edition of of British Brew.
Yeah.
And of course, my very first book, Touch My Blood. So people, don't say we didn't show you. The books are there. Get them from bookstores. If you can't get them from bookstores, contact me because I can sell them to you directly. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Fred Khumalo on Twitter. And I'm on Facebook as well. So you can't say you can't find me. I'm on WhatsApp as well. 072-87-99908. You can't say, can't get hold of Fred.
Repeat that.
072-87-99908. Also, okay?
Great
and Twitter @Fred Khumalo. It's one word. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us, people.
Okay, so I think there's one message, last message there. Let's see if
message
or maybe
it's done. Okay.
Great stuff. Wow.
Thank you.
I
thank you for this.
Every minute of this. So just
great.
share me. Okay,
yeah. Baba siyabonana ngathi ntambama futhi now.
Hello?
Siyabonana nawe ntambama ngo5.
Ngo5 ne?
Yeah, no Zubi.